Today, I am your host, Jack Scott, and welcome to Simply Cyber, the YouTube channel designed to help you make and take your cybersecurity career further and faster. So where is Gerald? That's the question, I guess. Maybe I hacked his account. Maybe I got the keys to the castle. Maybe he's coming on the show here shortly. And I am just thrilled because if he's here or not, we're going to be talking about writing a book. And I want to first, before we do bring Gerald on, I want to thank everybody for showing up. Anybody that's live, thank you. And then for anybody that's watching this on recording, super excited to have you guys here. Now, for all the live guests, I'm going to be filtering any of your questions, but just to help me out, make sure you put a big Q in the front of that question so we can get it answered appropriately. And also, if you do pose your question, do it one time. I promise you I will get to it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and figure out where Gerald is and why he is not actually in the studio today.
Hey everybody, what's up, Jax? How you doing?
Oh my God, that's so exciting. Was that not the best countdown timer ever? I love that thing.
Yeah, I love Simply Cyber's hype music. We've got it on lock.
I've got my AC/DC shirt on for this. This is going to be awesome. But before we dive in, where are you? What is going on right now?
Yeah, I wanted to do the live stream today. Didn't want to miss a Thursday, so we're committed to it. But me and my cousin are heading up to an annual trip up in the mountains. So I won't have service up there. I'll be, distracted or, predisposed with other activities. So calling you from the road, so we're making it happen. Simply Cyber the show will go on.
How do you have your camera mounted right now? Are you holding it up like this or?
No, I actually have like a 4-foot clamp mounted to my OS bar, and it hooks around and loops around. I can, it's here. Let me just show you real quick. So this is the situation going on.
I like it.
In my car with the loop-de-loop and all that. So we are making it work, whether remote or in the studio. So I really appreciate y'all being here with us today. We're going to have a great show.
This is going to be awesome. All right, Gerald. Well, let's dive into it. Let's first start, let's share about why you even wanted to write a book. Where did this come from? Was this something that you had thought of recently, or was this a lifelong dream and journey of yours to write a book, and specifically this particular book, an entry book into cybersecurity?
Yeah. So, I personally have always wanted to write a book. And actually, the whole reason that I did this live stream or wanted to do this live stream today is because I feel like a lot of people say to themselves, I really want to write a book. It's always like this, long-term vision, super life goal, dream board type thing. And, I personally had that goal myself. And, I really wanted to write a book, but I didn't want to write a book just for the sake of writing a book. It wasn't about that. It was being able to convey, communicate, share knowledge, impact people in a way that's meaningful to me. And, with Simply Cyber, it's been a nice evolution organically, where Simply Cyber was basically an opportunity to answer the same question I get over and over again, answer it in advance of people even knowing that they want to ask it in the future. So that's where Simply Cyber came from. And by hearing all of the different common questions, common themes, common kind of background and avatars, I thought, this book, this idea of a cybersecurity career master plan is a perfect opportunity to provide, to check those boxes, write a book, get it published, serve a community, help people out, and check off that life goal box. So, if you're in the crowd, you're watching on replay and you have that goal, that's really what the micro value is of this particular talk is to answer those questions and kind of demystify some of the writing journey, and actually kind of shed some light on some of the less, glamorous or pitfalls you might encounter.
Yeah, I want to dig in a little bit to how you kind of got the idea to create this basic, the Cybersecurity Career Master Plan, providing a basic knowledge and understanding in this field. I know because you and I worked together on creating the outline. But before even that, you had approached me with this idea. So I'm curious, what were your first steps in figuring out, getting the ideas down and kind of brainstorming the direction before even you and I had talked?
Yeah, it really was. The challenge really revolves around how do I break into cybersecurity, right? So people who don't know they may go do try hack me or hack the box for like a few months, and they're working on like hard boxes and they're getting some skills, but like it's kind of all over the place. It's like a shotgun blast. You don't really, you're not building it in an incremental way where like what you're doing on day 3 is building what you did on day 2, which is building on day 1. Like, to me, I prefer a more classic academic education journey. And that doesn't mean necessarily going to a 4-year school. What I mean is learning fundamentals, then taking it to the next level, understanding how the things interrelate with each other and interoperate. Like, yeah, doing a buffer overflow is pretty cool, but like if you don't understand like how memory addresses are, or why like a CPU moves an instruction pointer, like the whole idea of the buffer overflow is lost on you. So okay, so that's the problem. Now, how do we solve for that? How do we help people figure out the way to do it? And I didn't come up with this originally, but retrospectively looking at it, I think of it as like Sherpas, right? So the Sherpa, when you go to Everest, has gone up and down Everest 100 times over. They know like the right paths. They know what days to go. They know what to pack. They know what to eat the night before. They know when you should get up and get on the road. Like all of these things the Sherpa just knows. And the people who want to climb Everest rely on the Sherpa for their knowledge, for their experience of having done it already. And they provide you with that step-by-step, do this first, do this second, do this third. And that was kind of the impetus for the book of Cybersecurity Master Plan. It was like, let's put this in a way that makes sense chronologically from someone going from not in the field to in the field. And I really thought it was important that the first section that we did out of 3 sections was focused on, do you even want to work in this field? Because a lot of people get wrapped around the axle that there's jobs, it pays well, and they don't ask themselves, is this a job I'm even going to enjoy? So, we start there and we move through it incrementally, and we build you up step by step. And to me, that was kind of like the goal. Like, so I'm saying, if you're going to write a book and it's more of an educational self-help, like think of who the audience is. Don't write the book for yourself. Mm-hmm. Write the book for the person that you want to read the book.
Yeah, and that actually flows very well into what I wanted to talk with you next, is understanding like your why behind it, because it was hard. It was hard, I would say challenging. It was definitely challenging. That I actually withdrew from school for an entire term to write the book. And it was a lot of hours. I remember there was one weekend I wrote for 20 hours, like 10 hours one day and 10 hours the other day, just to try to stay consistent with all the timelines that we had with our publisher. And I know what my why was, but what can you tell any of the viewers right now about your why? I know that we all know that you are extremely passionate and that cybersecurity is a lifestyle, but sometimes the why, you might have just wanted to write a book, but that why isn't going to carry you over the finish line if it's not thriving and deep. So what was your why for even wanting to begin this journey on top of everything else you already had going on?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I didn't want to write a book just to write a book. Like I wanted to write a book that was meaningful, right? That was my why. I wanted to help people. And I agree with you 100%. Like another must-know truth I would argue is that like writing the book, it's going to get arduous. It's like really cool and it's fun to tell people that you're doing it and you've got like a book deal. Like that shine, that sexiness, it wears off like after like 2 weeks because people like got it and they move on to the next thing. But like now you're on the hook, you're obligated. And if you're not writing a book that you're like really interested in, like you're looking beyond the writing and you're thinking about like what the published book is going to do, how it's going to help, who's going to enjoy it. Like you're gonna get stuck in like the kind of muck and mire of the grind, right? Like of the actual work of doing it. You're gonna procrastinate. You're gonna push it off. I'd be interested to see if there's a metric around people that start books and then don't actually finish them because of this reason. So for my why, with Simply Cyber, I think we have like 20,000 subscribers. I've got like, there's a healthy community on the Discord server that engages. And, for me, like helping those people and helping people who haven't even figured out yet, like I'm helping the person in like 4 years who wants to get in the field and finds the book. And like, maybe I'm not doing YouTube anymore, or I'm not available or whatever. Like they can it's a lasting impact and it's a lasting way to serve our cybersecurity community. And that was my why. I care deeply about our community.
Oh my God, I love that. That is definitely in line with what my why is. And I want to circle back to something that you were talking about with individuals who have started writing the book and then maybe haven't finished it. Because I think one of the good things that we had, they were kind of, it was they kind of were annoying at times with the Pack Publishing, our publisher that we went through, because they were meticulous on their timelines, and they did give us some flexibility where we could kind of shift, and we got extra time to write the chapters. But when it started really coming towards the end where we needed things wrapped up and edits done so we could get it into a final draft, they were really pressing hard on us. And I felt like that helped. But I'm curious because Pact approached you about writing this book.
Yeah.
And some people kind of wonder, should I do self-publishing versus going through a publisher? Can you highlight, like, why did you pick Pact? Why did you go that route instead of self-publishing?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting point, and one that, if you're really genuinely watching this and interested in writing a book, and you're trying to figure out if self-publish or go with publishers, this is what I would say to you. With publishers, really the question revolves around money, right? Because that's the big difference between self-publish and publishing, with respect to you, right? So, just to be fully transparent, the publisher gets 80% of the money, right? So for every $30 book that gets bought of Cybersecurity Career Master Plan, there was 4 authors. Effectively, if you do the math, it's $1. I get $1, Jax gets $1 for every book sold, which is not great money, right? So we worked for 6 months, hundreds of hours, and probably made $200, right? So not something you're going to do to live on. So for me, it's not about the money. With publishing and selecting a publisher, what I would say is the first time you write a book, go with a publisher, because the publisher has the distribution channels, right? So our book is by Pact. Pact does tons of books. Pact, the books with Pact are, visually identifiable. O'Reilly books are visually identifiable. No Starch Press, a No Starch Press book when you see it, right? And you have a certain expectation of what the quality of that book is without even knowing the topic or the author, right? So going with a publisher for your first book is great because you get in the distribution chain, you get exposure, you get some marketing from them. That could have been better for Pact personally, but that with self-publishing, if you don't have an audience like a YouTube channel or Instagram or LinkedIn or something like that, and you don't have a publisher, when you publish the book, how do you get people to know it's out there? It could literally be the best book on the planet with all the answers to all the questions, and no one's going to know about it, right? So to me, that would be the decision to make of go for publisher or not. So now that we've written a book, if I was going to do another book, I would go self-publish because we've kind of established ourselves as authors at this point.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I don't know if I want to go self-publish or just step up to a different level of publication company, because there's different levels too. There's entry-level publication companies that will accept you with no real major footprint, with no writing experience, even blog articles, and they will do more of the work for you, and they'll accept, say, your outline with a little bit more flexibility. I've also heard that they're not as rigorous on the documents that you present to them, the work, because I've heard that certain publication companies, because this never happened to us, they might take what you've given to them and say it's garbage, throw it away, and tell you to rewrite the entire chapter, which never happened to us. So that's another thing to consider, is the level of publication. But a lot of those other companies aren't going to talk to you until you are a published author. But you hit on something that's really important to note is 2 things. It's really about the money direction. If you self-publish, you're going to get more. If you go through a publisher, you're going to get less money in your pocket. But second thing is, if you don't have an audience and a big following, it's going to be really hard to drive those sales and bring awareness around that book. And you're going to sell 10 copies. So those are the big things to consider. So going back to you deciding to write the book, you and I had a conversation about it over a year ago now. It's probably right around a year, actually. Mm-hmm. And initially it was going to be you writing it, and then you had decided I might want to co-author this, and then we started talking. Was that something you always wanted to do, was to co-author, or were you thinking at first, I want to author, but I really don't have the time, maybe I should consider co-authoring? What was your thought behind that?
Yeah. So Pact reached out to me. We had an initial conversation. I had outlined the high level architecture of the book and what it was going to do, and you know, it was basically what we ended up coming up with, for more or less. But and we were on board. Like, I was signed with Pact and it was going to go. And then I started working on it. I was thinking about it, and I was like, I do not have the bandwidth between my job, my family, Simply Cyber, some other projects I was working on. And I never considered a co-author at first, honestly. And I contacted my handler at Pact and I said, hey, listen, I'm actually not going to do this. This is not, it's not feasible. This is going to like drive me into the ground. And they actually suggested, you know, what about a co-author? And I said, oh, that is actually interesting. I hadn't considered that. And in hindsight, I actually am glad that we did it with co-authors because of the other perspectives, because of the, you know, the backgrounds. Like, you have a different background than I do, than Kim does, and John. So like, it actually, I felt, made the product a much richer experience for the readership, really. And by, you know, dividing and conquer, the amount of workload actually became feasible for what my schedule could actually entail. So if I could go back, let's say I could go back and do the same amount of work, but write the whole book by myself, I wouldn't do that. I would still do it exactly the way we did it, because I think it was it served the community better than if I just did it by myself, which was ultimately the why.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think when you write your next book, which we'll talk about writing another book a little bit later in, but do you think
drive off the road?
Yeah, your wife will be like, what?
Yeah.
Do you think when if you were to write another book, do you think you're going to co-author again, or do you have any desire? Because I personally, if I just authored a book, it would be more of a memoir. It'd be a personal thing, because I just enjoyed the journey so much more co-authoring. And I feel like you said, there's so much diversity in thought and discussion in a book that's co-authored than it is like individually written. And it's more enjoyable. What are your thoughts? Do you think you'll ever just author a book one day?
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to author a book by myself, so my dissertation for my PhD was essentially a book. It's like a 150-page book I had to write, and I did that by myself. And that was a really lonely, and I was doing research during it too, so that's another piece of complexity. But it was like a really lonely, tough, emotional experience writing it by myself. And I did it, but it wasn't really that fun. And then co-authoring was like so much better. I think, based on what you said, Jax, the only book I would ever author solo would be something that would be personal or intimate, where like having a co-author wouldn't actually make any sense, because the co-author wouldn't be able to speak to whatever the topic of the book is, right? So I think that's the only instance. If I was going to do a book like educational or a topic or technology or something like that, the perspectives that we're bringing from other authors, you know, I preach all the time. And if you're a regular of Simply Cyber, you know, I think networking is incredibly valuable. It's like, I've got a job now, so networking is good for getting a job, but it's good for so many other things, like this project and other projects that I've getting pulled into. So, you know, like, co-authoring with other people is doing networking. It's expanding your network. I mean, it's a bigger project. It's a bigger commitment than just like like doing a live stream together or something. But it's networking, and again, it's all about community. All roads are going to point back to the cybersecurity community for me.
Yeah, I sent a text to you last night. Cybersecurity is a lifestyle. I think you even said that in one of your most recent live streams that you did. It's definitely a community, and it is a lifestyle mentality. And we even talk about, we don't really touch on the lifestyle piece in the book, but we definitely, and I have a book right here. Look at that. Nice little, anybody that's curious, you can get it on Amazon. But we go into networking and understanding that and why it's important. And in the chapters, you know, you and I worked on the outline, and the outline alone took us a month, if not longer. But I remember we had a couple of calls, and then we divided and conquered on the outline.
Yep.
break down and like just unpack a little bit about your mindset on creating that outline and why you broke it down into 3 different sections and then the chapters and everything like that.
So, like I said a little while ago, it kind of naturally and organically lent itself to the 3 different sections. So the first section was, do you even want to work in this field? Which I think is a question that a lot of people don't ask themselves, and people who are in the field don't ask people who are reaching out for mentorship from them. I might be wrong, but for the most part, I don't hear too many people say, I hear people saying like, this is how you do it versus do you want to do it? And I'm guilty of that too, right? I regularly say that there's a place for everybody in the field, but not everybody will enjoy working in the field, right? And that there is some value to like your quality of life and everything like that. So, and then the second section is really the fundamentals, right? So how do you break into cybersecurity? There's certifications, education, skill-based experience, there's networking, there's where to find the job, there's conferences, there's like brand identity. It's like all of the golf clubs you need in the bag in order to go play 18 holes, right? Like it makes sense to give you all, like basically all the tools. It makes sense to put all the tools into one section so you're fully equipped to execute on it. And then the last section is like executing and like growing out of it and basically standing on your own. So I almost feel like it's not like a crawl, walk, run model. It's almost like, do you want to walk, crawl, walk? Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that it just organically worked out that way, because when we're reaching out to people, when we're mentoring people about how to get into cybersecurity, it is the workflow that we walk through them with. So it just made sense from a book structure to do that.
When you were going through kind of the book structure and you were dubbing it out and then started like really diving in and started writing, did you feel, because we broke it down where it was like every 4 weeks we had a new chapter, right? Every 3 to 4 weeks, roughly, each of us, the co-authors, would have a new chapter. But in between those 3 to 4 weeks, we were doing, at least I was, maybe not you, but I was doing just like copious amounts of edits, and I was just scanning through things because just how my brain works. Was there, when did you start? I can tell you when I did. When did you start feeling like that lull where you're like, oof, and you're kind of feeling like you're trudging through as you're like writing these chapters and just needing some time to be like, oof, this is tough?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, to level set, when you, at least with the Pact Publishing, and I think it could be similar for other publishers, if you're going to go it alone, right, it's typically like 10 chapters, give or take 1. So like, let's just say 10 chapters is right. 20 pages a chapter. So 200-page book is what Pact says is a pretty palatable size book for readership, right? So they've done the research. They know that a 500-page book isn't going to be desirable by consumers, right? So we're talking 10 chapters, 20 pages, and they want a chapter a week. That is the schedule that the publisher pushes down on you. So if you've ever like written 20-page paper for school or something like that, you do a 20-page paper every week, and you've got to do the research and stuff like that. And this is part of the reason why I didn't want to do it by myself, because I was like, this is insane. I like, it's a full-time job. So having said that, the way we broke it up, it was like basically 20-page paper a month for each of us. For me, getting the initial draft down, which some people say is supposed to be the hardest, getting the initial draft down wasn't too hard for me, because I would just like spew out the chapter. It was really carving out things, making things line up on the I did the chapter on like different sectors and industries, and like I had to do, like I'd never worked in oil and gas or energy, right? There's a whole section on oil and gas and energy. I had to find people in my network who worked in that field, then schedule calls, and then I interviewed them to talk about what it's like working in that field. Then I had to transcribe my notes. And like, really, that was probably the most time-consuming piece for me. And I started to feel the grind there, because like it was great meeting these people and getting information from these people, but then I had to fold it into the chapter in a way that logically made sense instead of just like hand jamming it, right? Because I didn't want it to be, rookie ball, where it's just like amateur hour and then like we're just throwing it in there and let the reader figure it out. I wanted it to fold nicely. So that's where the grind really started to work with me. And then actually I was willing to deal with that grind. The biggest grind for me, and this is another like must know truth, I would argue, is like you have in your mind, you've got to write these chapters. You write these chapters, you give them to the publisher. They come back with some edits, no big deal. And then you think you're done. And then they come with, oh, we need you to write the back cover. We need you to write the front cover. We need you to write the foreword. We need you to write like all these edits, all this new text, like we need you to write the description for Amazon. Like all of this was not on my plate in my mind when I said, I'm going to do this. So I had mentally said, like, I've achieved my goal when I finished and delivered my final chapters. And in reality, I still had like 25% more man hours of work to complete, which, to me was frustrating, tiresome, annoying. What about you, Jax?
Yeah, I got frustrated with the surprise requirements because I remember we did one requirement. I thought because you and I are very similar on like how we organize our day and our calendar and the task. And so things will be really organized. And I'm usually booked out of, 3 to a week in advance of things I need to get done. And when we would get thrown at the last minute, hey, this needs to be in by tomorrow. And it would be like a forward or something. And so that was definitely frustrating. I don't know if that's just across the board with working with publication companies or if that was our unique experience. I think that what was great is we had 4 of us. So we were one of us would be able to pick it up right then and then do a quick edit, get feedback, and then push it forward. I couldn't imagine doing it by myself. There's no way. I know for me, I started feeling the exhaustion towards the end. I think it was the last chapter where you and I wrote the last chapter together. And I was just like, I was tired, but explain how you did the pre-recording just a little bit further, because that was really fascinating when you shared that with me, how you would do a video and then it would turn it into yeah, that's really cool.
So
I wish I had known about that.
I just want to give a shout out to Base for modding, and I see Root Keysec in there.